So, what I would like to do today, I think is really interesting, and if you do or don't, that's up to you, but I think this is really, really fascinating stuff. I kind of talked about it last time when I was working on my master's degree. I came upon this Harvard Mind-Body Wellness Clinic, Harvard Mind-Body Cancer Clinic, and I suppose I shouldn't have done this because I kind of stole it from my professor who had gone to their week-long training on mind-body wellness or whatever, and he brought this back, and since then I copied it and I wrote down some interesting stuff, and since then I've been adding and subtracting to this. But this is kind of some of those, you know, we watched the video last week or last Monday of the guy who just said stop it, you know, remember that, and he was pretty much, you know, that's how you should think. Well, this is really how we should think for peak wellness. I'm convinced after studying this stuff for 25 years, this is as good as it gets as far as getting ourselves to a state of mind that promotes high-level peak mental, emotional, psychological wellness. So, and I hope this doesn't seem I can't think of a better way to do this. If as we're starting to go through this, the thought occurs to you, well, Mike, we should do it this way, then please raise your hand because I'll be happy to do it in a different way. But I thought it'd be fun to just, or at least it'd be fun for me, to just kind of talk about it, not me just say it, but let's explore examples, let's see how this fits so that we totally understand what's being said or what each of these ideas are about. Okay? So feel free to think deeply about how these are not just nice thoughts to think about, but how they can be applied situationally in your life. So as we go through this, let's think what these mean. The first one, they say, try to cultivate a beginner's mind. In the beginner's mind, there are limitless possibilities. The expert's mind, there are few. What does that mean? In the expert's mind, there are few. What? Yeah. Yeah. When you come upon an expert,
they know it all.
They already do know it all, right? And I love that Zen kind of story that talks about the guy who's comes to the Zen master and he says, tell me what I need to know about Zen. And the Zen master says, here, take this cup. And he takes this cup and the Zen master starts pouring in tea into his cup. And he keeps right on pouring until the cup is overflowing. And he says, your mind is like this cup. It's so full of your own ideas that there's no room for anything else to be put in there. And so the beginner's mind means you kind of go with an idea, I really don't know if I know anything, and being okay with that. Does that make sense? If you approach anything with the attitude of, I already know it, I already know that, I already know all I need to know, then you pretty much sealed that possibility of expansion right there. So, in the beginner's mind, there are limitless possibilities because you're open to those possibilities. Once in the beginner's mind, let go and listen to what may be put in, and we've talked about that. Some of these things will be a review We've hit a lot of these during the semester. You cannot control external circumstances, but you can control your reactions to them. To us now, that should be obvious, right? We can't control 99% of the things that are happening outside. 100% of the time, we can control our responses to them. And if you took the stress management class, we played with the levels of responding, and you know, if you look at that, in any situation, you have a choice. And you can choose effectively or ineffective ways to that will lead toward joy and peace and happiness, or resistance and frustration, anger, and stress. Optimal health is a product of both physical and mental factors. It used to be, and we talked about this at the very beginning, we used to think, well, health is all about physical. As long as my blood pressure is good, as long as I'm, my heart rate, my return to resting heart rate is, quick. All of those things, my body fat percentage, cholesterol levels, all those kind of things. That's only a part of it, and I think we've figured that out now. Yeah.
I read a book called Love and Health, where the author...
Low and Health?
Love.
Oh, Love and Health.
Mm-hmm. Where the author compares the physical... Well, he also does a spiritual, but just for this, he compares the physical body to the mental body or dimension of our being. And he talks about how the physical body is a perfect template of how we should approach the health of our mind. Because just as we need nutrients and exercise and to get rid of wastes, we should do the same with our mind. And I thought the getting rid of waste was a particularly new idea to me. How he says that just as our body gets rid of those things, of toxins, of things that it knows it doesn't need, we should also get rid of those things like anger, frustration, or make sure we filter them out. Because
how do you do that?
How do you do that?
So you digest and you eliminate physically. How do you digest and eliminate mentally? What would you guess? Because I agree with you. Mm-hmm. So how do you do that? How do you take complex carbohydrates mentally? What are the the mental equivalent of complex carbohydrates?
Probably studying.
Studying what?
Interest topics.
Okay, so making your mind work.
Yeah,
okay.
That's kind of where he says like the exercise part comes in. You analyze, you keep yourself. You don't just you don't just memorize things, for example, but like actually analyze when you read.
So what would be the elimination part, would you guess? I have one idea. I would say that one maybe, but there's one more profound than that, I think. He said EFT. I think that would be one good one.
Do you know what they were talking about, how do we eliminate? I find myself sighing a lot if I feel a lot of pressure, or even breathing to try to calm myself down. So I would say even breathing for me would be a way to eliminate.
That's closer. I mean, that's close too. The answer that I would say would be meditation. Regular use of the meditation that you learned does that very thing. It's its own cleanser of...
That's why you feel so good.
Exactly, yeah. And if you feel good, you know you're on the right, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a great, that's an excellent thought, I think.
Yeah, I like that.
What was the name? The Love and Health?
Love and Health.
I should read that.
Yeah.
Okay. Which leads to the next one, take time to ponder and meditate. A still mind is able to hear one's intuition and conscience. A busy one isn't. And we played with this way earlier in the semester. Ask yourself, who am I, why am I here, where am I going? And watch your answers change. I know for sure that mine have changed many times. Who am I, why am I here, where am I going? That answer is rarely the same each time I ask that. And that's a good thing. Think of yourself as healthy. Ask yourself, is my inner peace completely dependent upon my body condition? And then it says, if so, I'm in trouble. Why is that? If my inner peace is completely dependent upon my body condition, if so, I'm in trouble. Why is that?
Well, our mind can have us think positively and stuff. So we can be really fit, but if our mind and our emotions aren't in control, then there's always stress and there's not any management, and it eventually impacts the physical.
Okay. Okay.
The other way around is also true. Like, what's his name? Auschwitz, the guy that was in the concentration
Viktor
camp.
Frankl?
Yeah, like I'm sure that he was beaten, and you know what I mean. Like his physical was probably pretty demolished, but mentally, I mean, that's what mattered, and that's why he was able to.
Yeah. Excellent example. Do you know anyone who has a perfect physiology? I don't know anyone. Nor does everyone stay perfectly healthy physically all the time. Nor is everyone, 12% body fat all the time. And so, if we have to be a certain way physically for us to be at peace, we're doomed. But if we be at peace, then we can, that's the better place to start.
You have to be separate from your body at the moment you are not your body.
Yes.
I had, it was about a year ago this time, my happiness centered on my being able to run. And I love running, but I focused so much on that when I got a stress fracture in my foot and wasn't able to run, it was like the hardest thing I'd ever gone through in my life, because I was so connected to it. Whereas it's just something I enjoy doing, but it's not who I am, that would have made it different.
Yeah.
But having that be who I was is the hardest thing I've ever gone through.
Excellent point. Brilliant point. Yeah. We are, let's see, what was I love this statement. We are not physical beings having an occasional spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having an occasional physical experience. That if you chop off your arm, break your ankle, whatever, you're still 100% you, but your physiology is never going to be perfect. So be okay with that. And we'll hit that again in a second. But we have to still think of ourselves that we are happy or healthy. Remember, things change. Change is the only constant. Be open to new things that come up and greet them with openness rather than resistance. And I think the whole concept of serendipity hits that right on the nose. If we can keep that in mind as we are floating through our days or beelining through our days, things change. And it's okay. It's the only constant is change. Your belief system is very powerful, and we've played with this quite significantly. We tend to attract the things we fear and the things we love. In other words, the things we put our attention to, and that is that whole law of attraction thing. I think it's really fascinating that the placebo effect works 30% of the time. Is that significant? Think about that. 30% of the time somebody's given a sugar pill, and to them that is going to do the trick for whatever problem is the pill is they think is going to fix. 30%. That's enormous to me. I told you about the story of the refrigerated boxcar, didn't I, in here? No, and I found the reference for that if you want it. It is in Dennis Waitley's book, Lessons to Lead and Succeed in a in a knowledge-based world. Wait, the book was called Empires of the Mind, sorry, by Dennis Waitley. He's the one who tells that story. W-A-I-T-L-E-Y, in case you care. The only escape from fears and doubts is to confront them head on. Avoiding strengthens the fear and weakens self-control. Repression renders one out of control and creates undue stress. Fears faced can lead to transformation. Fleeing from fears leads to helplessness. Acknowledge your fear, go for it anyway. The thought that just came to mind, I remember when we spoke a little about the psychoneuroimmunology the other day. There was another interesting thing they found out with women who have breast cancer. I don't know if any of you have heard this before. Bless you, bless you. Have you heard of this study of women who have breast cancer? They found that when people, and they studied it specifically with breast cancer, but they found that there was a personality that seemed to promote, once somebody's diagnosed, seems to promote breast cancer. And that,
Once they're diagnosed.
what? Yeah, once they're diagnosed. And that personality is, oh, well, too bad, there's nothing I can do about it. That personality, that mindset, seemed to make the breast cancer worse. On the opposite side, when they were doing this study, those who had they called it I can't remember if it was like, if they gave it a name, something to the feel of the fighter mentality. I am going to, this is not bigger than me mentality. When they had that, those women tended to get better. The ones who had there's nothing I can do about it, they did tend to get worse. Cancer, I mean, that's something that, I mean, how out of control does it feel like most people get cancer? But apparently there is something about that mind-body connection related to cancer that by having that fighting spirit, that's what I was after. The fighting spirit tends to be beneficial in that way. Accept yourself as you are. You might as well, because you're the only one that you have. Whether you have fat thighs, a big nose, flat feet, balding hair, the person you really are, and I think this goes to what you were saying, the person you really are is hardly the one you see every day. The mirror always lies. You gave your life to become the person you are right now. Was it worth the sacrifice? I always think of that's from Richard Bach in his book Illusions. That thought always knocks me. You gave your life to be the person you are now. You sacrificed everything else to be who you are. Might as well accept it, because that's what you got. This is a nice one. This came from, they mentioned this, but when I was in this, I think I told you about the relationship class I was in, the love class I was in at BYU. It was called the love class. Did I tell you about this? Did I? Where there was like 700 people in one classroom and one guy up there in the front, or a lady up in the front talking every week for an hour and a half. It was ridiculously awful the way it was structured, but everyone wanted to take it. But I remember, I don't remember very many things, but this is one of the things that somebody in there said is, you can either be right or you can be happy and at peace. But you can't have both. Now, what's the idea behind that? Think about in terms of relationships.
Can you argue your point and make sure that you come out the top one standing and not get along with your partner, or?
Yeah.
You're constantly defending.
When you are defending your point of view, you're trying to be right.
You're not trying to understand.
Right. And by doing that, you don't get happiness and peace. You get your defense for your point of view. Review your daily activities and notice how much energy is used in defending various positions which help us to prove how right we are. Arguing is usually the act of trying to prove you are right and the other person is wrong. Eliminate the need to be right and there will be nothing to argue about. Does that feel right to you guys? Yeah. War at the global level is one gigantic I'm right, you're wrong. Allow the other person to be right and you automatically get inner peace. If you're wrong, say so quickly. If you're right, say, and this was the one that they said in that relationship class. They said, if you're wrong, say so immediately. If you're right, shut up. Don't say anything at all. Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Who in here wrote, didn't somebody in here read Who Moved My Cheese? You read that. That was this whole part. I was so ticked off when that book came out because they stole it from, the guy didn't make that up. I know exactly where he got that story from, and I kept thinking, man, I could have done that. But the idea behind this is really an interesting idea, and I think, Henny, correct me if I'm missing the point here. This is a really fun idea. Here's a mouse, okay? You put a mouse into a maze, or let's say here's a mouse and there's these tubes into which he can go. Okay? In one of these tubes, we put some cheese. Cheese. Okay? A normal thinking mouse, what does the mouse do? When you let it go into the tube, what does it do? Yeah, it'll check up here and no cheese, okay. Oh, cheese, good, yay. And it eats it. Okay? Next time, it may look in here, but it'll just kind of go right to here because it knows that it wants the cheese. That's what its goal is, to get the cheese. If we move the cheese, and this is, I think, the thrust of that book, or one important thrust of it. If we move the cheese and put the cheese here, what does the mouse do? What does the mouse do when we move the cheese? Okay, it likely won't even look here. It'll go up here and no cheese. What does the mouse do? No. It'll go, oh, no cheese. Okay, I'm going to look. No, okay. Oh, cheese. It knows it wants the cheese, and if there's no cheese, it doesn't stay there wishing there were cheese. The difference between a mouse and a human is you originally have the cheese right here, and the human will come here going, oh, here's the cheese. Great. I'm fulfilled. I'm getting what I want. The cheese will move, right? The cheese changes places for people. And the person, oh, so now the cheese is over here. And the human will keep going up here over and over again, staying here, getting depressed, going, this is where the cheese is supposed to be. It was there before. This is where I should be. It should be here. Wah. They're stuck. Who Moved My Cheese? The whole idea of that book was your cheese is going to move. Go with it. Find it where it is. Don't stay stuck in where it isn't, going, wah. My cheese should be here. That's the idea of at least a portion of that book, and I'm so mad because I could have written that. They stole it from this training I went to. Does that make sense for everyone? The cheese keeps moving. On a daily basis, make forgiveness your highest function. Above all else, forgive and let go. And this was one of the things they said in the Mind Body Clinic information. And this comes from Course in Miracles, Love is Letting Go of Fear is the book by Gerald Jampolsky, that one of the best books ever written. It's a tiny little book. You can read it in an evening. I've read it probably 15 times. But the essence of this book is, if you want inner peace, the only way to inner peace is by forgiveness, by letting and allowing and letting go. It's the only way.
What's that book called again?
Love is Letting Go of Fear. If you want to really dive into this, so there's a set of books that take you a year to read called Course in Miracles. And that's really spiritual psychotherapy like nothing that's ever been written. But Love is Letting Go of Fear is Gerald Jampolsky's kind of synopsis of it all. But he said, I mean, think about this. Whenever you refuse to forgive, what do you get? When you refuse to forgive, in other words, you refuse to allow and let happen and let go, what do you get?
Mental.
What?
Mental poisoning.
Mental poisoning. That would be the high fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated fatty acids, mental food.
You also get the
Is-
burden of carrying that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you're carrying.
And think about the opposite of when you just, you know, so many things just came to my mind, but one of the things that, and we could all tell experiences of this, but we were having dinner with my parents for Thanksgiving, and we were talking about family stuff, and all my other brothers were, no, one of my brothers was with us, and then the other two were elsewhere. All of my brothers owe my dad a tremendous amount of money, you know, from 10 or 20,000 up into the 6 digits for how much money they owe him. And I'm in charge of his will, and I'm the, whatever you call it, the person that has to take care of it all. And he had said a few years ago, he told me, okay, these are the debts that these guys have. And this is a very financial kind of focus, but it's still, I could see what happened to him when he did this. He said, these are the debts that they have, and when we pass on, I want, you know, don't include this, whatever amount that these guys owe to them. Does that make sense how I said that? So portion it out according to their debts. And so the other day he said, no, just give them whatever they want, or whatever is equal for each one. In other words, he said, I don't care what they owe me. He said, I don't want that to be a something that's involved in the mix. And it was so amazing to watch how peaceful he felt about that. He just felt, yeah, that's, you know, they owe me that money. And they probably won't ever pay it back. And he let it go. And you could just see him feeling better about that instead of, oh, these guys, I have given you so much. You know, instead, he had peace. And I think that's how it always happens. This is the most freeing act humanly possible. There's nothing you can do that will bring more peace to your mind and spirit than forgiveness. This means forgiving others completely for whatever things you think they may have done to you. This also means forgiving yourself. And for some of us, that's harder. Letting go of past mistakes, which you can do nothing about now, and moving on joyfully in the present. Forgiveness means giving up your emotional attachment to people or situation. When you let go, you get peace. We have a lot of attachments that we connect to emotionally, to stuff that if we would just let go, suddenly that moment is way better.
That's something, like, I have people in my life that I never see, but when I think about them, like, and I just, like, interacted with them very, like, almost not at all, but I still, like, I start to feel upset. But I don't really feel like I have, like, I don't know what there is to forgive, because I don't really, but I feel, like, upset thinking about people, and I don't know how to, like, is that, does EFT it?
Well, I mean, maybe, maybe, but if you notice yourself attached emotionally to that, to when that happens, it's not them that's creating that. That is an emotion that only you can create. So you have to take responsibility for it and go, yeah, I guess I am doing this. How can I think about this differently in this situation such that that reaction does not take place?
I read the book Love is Letting Go of Fear, and we had some things happen in my family that, dude, I wasn't a part of the problem, but it impacted me, and that got me for a while. And after reading that book, it helped me train myself how to just rethink of the whole incident. Like, I still think of what happened, and I still every once in a while on bad days have problems with it, but in it's helped me train rethinking on, and even to look back at it, it helps me rethink of how it impacted me and forgiveness is one of the biggest keys in it.
Yeah. The idea that we should be in charge of making somebody be different than they are is the problem. People are going to be who they are and do what they do, and your need for them to be different is the thought that you have to change, because they ain't going to change. Bob?
I read this book by Wayne Dyer called You'll See It When You Believe It, and he talked about it in there. I just was skimming through the table of contents, and that was the first chapter I read. It's at the end, but he talked about detaching yourself from being emotionally harmed by what other people do, because that's just your perception of it. It's exactly what you're saying. It's just really cool how he described it. Like, it helped me so much in feeling emotion from this person that I felt was damaging my life. And it just stopped. Like, I don't feel that anymore. But I have to go back and read that chapter sometimes.
And it does take practice. You have to keep focusing on that thought structure that you've created. You have to keep focusing on it, going, wait a second, that way of thinking is not bringing me peace of mind. And if that's the case, it's a matter of going back and rethinking how much you want them to be different than they are. You can't do it, nor should you try.
I think by holding grudges or not getting all the feelings, you allow that person to have power over you.
Absolutely.
And I'm someone who feels not, I don't think deeply, and I end up holding grudges. But what I realize is that it's damaging me more than it's damaging them by ignoring them or getting upset with them. It's causing more damage to my mind, not affecting them as much as you would think that it would. It ends up hurting me.
Yeah, there's a great quote. There's two quotes that came to mind, but the one that I want to tell you, it's like holding a grudge is like taking poison and expecting the other person to get killed. Right? Stephen Covey said, wrap yourself around the emotional weaknesses of other people and you allow those weaknesses to control you. Let them be whatever they are and you get peace. You won't change them. And the more you try to change them, the less they will. Stay open to life's teachings. The teacher does not always come in clear, recognizable attire. Don't close yourself off from possible futures until you're certain you have nothing more to learn from them. That comes from another of Richard Bach's books. You never know what the message is in the situations. Going back to serendipity, you never know. So don't close it off until you're sure there's nothing more to learn. Be patient. Let go of unrealistic expectations. Don't try to hurry the natural course of things. A huge tree can only grow so fast, but because it doesn't hurry, it becomes a great tree. If you've ever studied Taoism, who in here read Tao Pu? Do we have somebody in here read? You read Tao Pu, right? The whole essence of Taoism is nature goes at its own pace, and there's nothing in nature that is abrupt, except lightning. That's abrupt. Very few things in nature happen in an instant, things in the growing sense. They all grow at their own pace, and we have a lot to learn from that. Don't be in a hurry. Things will turn out just fine. Yes.
A therapist told me once that a symbol, and I don't think it's in Taoism, Asian practice, but anyhow, a symbol for that, for the, letting go of unexpected expectations. I don't remember the exact word for it, but is a pine tree with snow on it, and that it's still strong, but it allows to bend. Mm-hmm. We should be that way too. To allow ourselves to bend. It doesn't mean that we're breaking ourselves, but.
Same as the other thought that came to my mind when you were saying that is the bamboo versus the reeds. When the wind comes, the bamboo resists, and what happens? Breaks. When the wind comes, the reeds, they flow with it, and nothing happens to them. Same kind of idea. Most of our problems in life come about because of our emotional attachment to things. Attachment is like a closed fist. You can't do much with it except punch. So like, this is attachment. All you can do is punch with it. Open your fist. Release is like an open hand. You can do so much more with an open hand. Give, receive, shake hands, touch. And then the final one, argue for your limitations and they're yours. This is one of my favorite quotes, lines ever written of all time. Say you have problems, you'll have problems. Say you're free, you're free. Say that you're the master of your life, and you are. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. I remember reading a book by, I forgot the smother, I don't remember the name of the book. But the name of the book was called Winning Through Enlightenment. And the idea behind this book was this, and this is really as brilliant as anything I've ever come upon. The only reason you have to say, or the only, well, let me see if I can get this right. The only thing stopping you from being a master is you not saying so. All you have to do to be a master is just say so. And what I mean by that is, you're living on this stage. You're on this, you're playing in a play. It's just a play. It's just a game. You're on the court and you're playing this game. And you've decided, you know, you've created limitations. Oh, I can only do this. Oh, I can only do that. I'm not good enough. I'm not whatever. On your stage. There's nobody else on your stage as far as who's directing the show. And all you have to do is say, I think I choose to be the master from now on. If you don't do that, you never will be, because nobody else is up there directing the show. Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense to you guys? We kind of tuned out. This is so huge. I can't even begin to say. All you have to do is say so. Are you the master of your life? Yes. Why? Because you say so, and for no other reason. You don't have to have any reason for you to be anything except for the reason that you say so. So start saying so. Yep, I want to be in charge of everything that I can control. I want to be, do, and have this. For no other reason than you say so. I want to be the master of my life. For no other reason than I say so. You have that right. The only belief that you have is that you don't have that right. The only mistaken belief is that you don't have that right. Fix that belief, and suddenly, wow, I guess I want to steer the ship. And the funny thing about that is, what's really cool about that is, as soon as you start doing that, as soon as you stop arguing for your limitations, those limitations kind of start becoming background noise as opposed to right in your face. You let them, they just kind of, they're around somewhere, but you don't give them any energy anymore. And pretty soon you find yourself, your problems clear up physically. There's some time when you ever get a chance, just spend some time reading, and there's all the books that are on the book list on the mind-body connection, and how having that kind of a mindset makes it so physical problems disappear. Emotional problems disappear. I was so happy to read today. I was reading somebody who was in a stress class who said, and the question was asked, how do you feel now compared to how have you changed since the beginning of the semester? And this person said, he said he wanted to kill himself at the beginning of the semester. I mean, it really, he said, I don't have any reason for being, which is just him saying so. There's nobody outside of him saying you should kill yourself. And through the semester, he found some tools that have made such a huge difference that for the first time in his life, he's happy. And it's just a matter of him changing his thoughts about it. And we have that same right. I think that's so huge. Argue for your limitations, and they're yours. Whether you think you can or think you can't, either way, you're right. That's mastery. Just start thinking, I can. And watch what happens. It's really cool. On Friday, we're going to play with something that, for some of you, will be really, so I'm going to invite you to open your mind and open your thoughts to something that is quite out there on the limb, and I feel like we're going to go for it one time with some stuff that's really interesting. And I'm not going to make you believe anything different than you already believe, but it's fun stuff. So we'll see you then. Have a great day, everybody.